I'll never forget the night my siblings and I played hide and seek outside my mom's apartment. It was early October, that strange time of year when the air starts to bite and the nights just feel way longer than they should. My mom lived in a pretty rough part of town. Her building was right next to this long, narrow alleyway that everyone, and I mean everyone, avoided after dark. It just had that kind of vibe. But that night, my friends and siblings, in our infinite wisdom, thought it would be a brilliant idea to play hide and seek outside. It was about 9 p.m. The 6 of us, my sister Jess, my brothers Mike and Eli, and our friends Zach and Chi-Chi's knock out of the apartment. The parking lot was bathed in this rusty orange glow from the streetlights, which cast these long, distorted shadows over the cracked pavement. It was already a little spooky, to be honest. Zach was chosen to be it, and as soon as he started counting, we all scattered like leaves in the wind. Jess and I instinctively ran behind the building, heading straight for the dumpsters. We figured it was the perfect hiding spot, dark, smelly, and no one would want to look there. We crouched down, muffling our giggles, trying to be completely still, and then silence. Not the normal quiet of a neighborhood at night, but that heavy, humming kind of silence that you can almost feel in your ears. It felt like the entire world was holding its breath. Just as Jess whispered, "I think we might have hidden too well." I glanced down the length of that creepy alleyway. That's when I saw him. Someone was standing there, a tall, motionless figure, right under one of the flickering lights at the far end. Their face was completely lost in shadow, but I could make out one horrifying detail: a round, colorful wig. A clown wig. My heart didn't just sink, it plummeted. It wasn't Halloween yet. It wasn't even close. So why was someone dressed like that, just standing there in the dead of night? The figure didn't move an inch. It just stood there, watching, staring right at us. The air grew cold, and I felt a shiver crawl up my spine that had nothing to do with the October chill. Jess must have seen it too, because her hand clamped down on my arm like a vice. "Let's go," she whispered, her voice trembling. We didn't need to be told twice. Backed away slowly. Our eyes locked on the figure, then turned and ran as fast as we could to find the others. We stumbled upon Mike and Chi-Chi, who were hiding behind an old sedan. We tried to explain what we saw, our words tumbling out in a panicked rush. "There's a clown, ... in the alley, ... just standing there." Of course, they didn't believe us. They laughed, thinking we were just trying to scare them. "Yeah, right," Mike scoffed. "Nice try." But our fear was too real to be fake. We're serious. "Look," I insisted, pointing back towards the alley. They finally turned to look, probably just to humor us. And their laughter died in their throats. The clown was closer now, much closer. It had moved out from under the flickering light and was now halfway down the alley. And this time, it did something that will be burned into my memory forever. It slowly raised its hand and gave us a single, deliberate wave. A wave that felt less like a greeting and more like a threat. Then, Chi-Chi let out a blood-curdling scream. But she wasn't looking at the alley. She was looking behind us. My head whipped around, and my blood ran cold. Standing not 20 feet away, near the entrance to the parking lot, was another one. This one had stringy green hair, impossibly long legs, and a face painted with blacked-out eyes and a grotesque, stretched smile. It was just standing there, silent, like a nightmare come to life. 2 of them, we were surrounded. That's when absolute chaos erupted. We bolted. Everyone ran in different directions, screaming, just trying to get away. Jess and I sprinted for the stairs to Mom's apartment, our feet pounding on the concrete, not daring to look back. We fumbled with the door, burst inside, and slammed it shut, shaking uncontrollably. When we turned around, our mom was there, hugging our little brother Eli, who was sobbing. He had gotten back just a minute before us. He'd seen something too. He told us he'd been hiding near the courtyard bushes when someone in clown clothes, with that same horrifying face paint, had leaned over the top of the bushes, staring straight down at him without a sound. That night, none of us slept much. The feeling of being watched was unbearable. Around 2 a.m., I woke up, my throat completely dry from all the screaming. I tiptoed to the kitchen to get some water, trying not to wake anyone. As I was filling a glass, I heard it. A faint asterisk tap. Tap, tap asterisk on the window. The kitchen window. We were on the 2nd floor. My heart hammered against my ribs. Told myself it was just a branch, the wind, anything. But the tapping was too rhythmic, too intentional. My hand trembled as I reached for the blinds. I took a deep breath and pulled them open, and I froze. Pressed against the glass, right there, on the 2nd story, was the same clown from the alley. Its face was distorted against the window pane, its painted smile wider and more terrifying than ever. It was just looking in at me, smiling. I screamed. It was a raw, primal sound of pure terror. My mom came running into the kitchen, but by the time she looked, it was gone. There was nothing there but the black night sky. No ladder, no ropes, nothing. Just gone. I never played hide and seek again after that night. Not outside, not ever. I'm to this day, nearly 20 years later. Alleyways still make my skin crawl. And sometimes, when I'm alone in a quiet house, I can almost hear that faint tapping on the window. Thanks so much for listening to my story. I know it's a crazy one, but it's 100% true. If you have any scary stories of your own, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Stay safe out there. When I was 11, there was this old, beat-up house right across the street from my elementary school. You know, the kind of place that looks like it's holding its breath? The paint was peeling off in long, sad strips. The windows were so fogged with grime they looked like cataracts, and the yard was a jungle of weeds. All the kids at school had their stories about it. It's haunted, they'd say, laughing and daring each other to touch the rusty gate. I never laughed, though. For me, that house wasn't a joke. It was terrifying. For the longest time, it was just a creepy landmark on my walk home. I'd cross the street to avoid getting too close, my eyes glued to the sidewalk. I grew up in a place that felt like it was plucked right out of an old storybook. Quiet little village in Poland, the kind of place where time seems to slow down, and everybody knows everybody else's business. It was a town steeped in tradition and old folklore, stories whispered by grandmothers to wide-eyed children. We didn't really do Halloween back then, not like you see in the movies. The most you'd get was maybe a few awkwardly carved pumpkins popping up on doorsteps. A recent trend that hadn't quite caught on. It was a place of comfort, of familiarity, a place where you felt safe until you didn't. One evening, the air had that distinct autumn chill, the kind that bites at your cheeks and promises winter is just around the corner. I bundled up and called for my dog, Susie. She was this big, beautiful German shepherd, strong and fiercely loyal. Honestly, with her by my side, I never felt a moment of fear, even walking down the darkest country roads late at night. She was my furry, four-legged bodyguard. Our usual route was a narrow path that snaked its way through the edge of the village. On one side, a dense, dark forest stood like a wall of shadows, the kind of woods that seemed to swallow the light. On the other side was an old, dilapidated stable. It had belonged to the village priest a long, long time ago, but now it was just a skeleton of a building, slowly surrendering to nature. The wood was gray and splintered, the roof sagged in the middle, and it had been empty for as long as I could remember. It was just another landmark on our daily walk, a piece of village history slowly fading away. We were about halfway down this path, the silence broken only by the crunch of leaves under my boots and Susie's happy panting. Then she stopped, dead in her tracks. Every muscle in her body went rigid. Her ears shot up, and a low growl rumbled deep in her chest. Before I could even ask what was wrong, she erupted. It wasn't her usual, "I see a squirrel" bark. This was different. This was a frantic, desperate, almost terrified sound that I had never heard come out of her before. It sent a shiver straight down my spine. My own heart started to pound in my chest. I tightened my grip on her leash and followed her intense gaze, trying to pierce the gathering gloom. At first, all I could see were the familiar shapes of the trees and the deep, inky shadows they cast. The only light came from a single, lonely streetlight, a little further down the road, casting a weak, sickly yellow glow over the scene. And then I saw him. My blood ran cold. There, just behind the crumbling wall of the old stable, was a figure. A man. He was kneeling on the damp ground, perfectly still. He was wearing a long, flowing white robe that stood out starkly against the darkness surrounding him. He wasn't trying to hide. He wasn't moving an inch. He was just kneeling, facing directly towards us. His posture was unnaturally rigid, like a statue carved from stone. Susie went absolutely ballistic. She was pulling on the leash with all her might, lunging and barking, trying to get to him. The sound was deafening in the quiet night. My hands started to shake so badly I could barely hold onto her harness. 1,000 terrifying thoughts raced through my mind. Who was he? What was he doing out here in the middle of nowhere, kneeling in the dark? Every instinct screamed at me to run to sprint as fast as I could, but a paralyzing fear kept me rooted to the spot for a second longer. I was afraid that if I made a sudden move, if I ran, it would provoke him, that he would get up and come after us. The image of him so still, so silent, was more terrifying than any monster from the folklore our grandmothers used to tell us about. I finally managed to get my feet to move. I gave Susie's harness a hard yank, pulling her away. "Come on, girl, let's go," I whispered, my voice trembling. We didn't run. We walked. Fast, panicked walk. but a walk nonetheless. I kept my eyes fixed on the comforting, distant lights of the village church up ahead, using them as a beacon. I didn't dare look back. I could feel his presence behind us, a cold spot in the night air. Every step felt like a mile. Susie was still tense, glancing back over her shoulder, a low growl still rumbling in her chest. The short walk home felt like an eternity. When we finally got inside, I slammed the door shut and triple-checked the lock. I collapsed against it, my heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted to break free. Susie paced restlessly around the room, whining softly. I couldn't shake the image from my head, the man in the white robe, kneeling silently in the dark. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe it was just someone playing a prank, a weird Halloween thing. But it didn't feel like a prank. It felt wrong, felt menacing. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I tossed and turned, the disturbing image replaying in my mind. Sometime deep in the night, I was jolted awake by a sound that slices through the quiet of a small village like a knife. Sirens. It's not just one, but multiple. Their wails rising and falling, echoing through the empty streets. They went on for what felt like forever, maybe half an hour, getting closer, and then fading slightly, a chaotic symphony in the dead of night. I lay there in bed, listening, my earlier fear returning with a vengeance. The next morning, the village was buzzing. News travels fast in a place like ours. I learned what the sirens were for. The old priest's stable, the one from my walk, had burned to the ground. It was a total loss, just a pile of charred timber and smoking ash. The official story, the one people were repeating over cups of coffee and at the local shop, was that it was probably just some teenagers. A Halloween prank that got out of hand. A stupid, reckless accident. But I knew what I saw. Knew there was more to it. I saw a man, robed in white, kneeling by that stable just hours before it went up in flames. The memory is seared into my brain. The sheer stillness of him. The way he just faced us, unmoving, as my dog barked her head off. He wasn't startled. He wasn't scared. He was just there. And that's the question that still haunts me all these years later. What was he doing? Was he praying? Was he performing some kind of strange ritual? Or was he just waiting? Waiting for the right moment, waiting for the village to fall asleep, waiting to light the match. I'll never know for sure. And sometimes, when I'm walking alone at night and the shadows play tricks on my eyes, I can't help but wonder, how long had he been kneeling there in the darkness before I ever saw him? Thank you so much for listening to my story. It's one of those memories that sticks with you, you know? If you have any similar unsettling experiences, I'd be fascinated to read them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more strange and mysterious stories. Stay safe out there. Have you ever had that feeling, that prickle on the back of your neck, that tells you something is just? I have. And it happened on what was supposed to be a perfect autumn day. Let me take you back to last October. The air was crisp. The sky was that brilliant, almost painful blue you only get in the fall, and the scent of cider donuts and decaying leaves was everywhere. School had just let out, and my friends and I decided to hit up the local pumpkin patch. You know the scene? Families laughing, kids running around with faces painted like little ghouls, the rhythmic thud of pumpkins being loaded into red wagons. It was wholesome. It was normal. It felt safe. My friend Kevin, always the instigator, pointed towards the far end of the field. "I bet you can't carry that giant one back," he said, grinning. The pumpkin he was pointing at was a monster, sitting all by itself near the tree line, far away from the cheerful chaos of the main patch. The challenge was on. We started walking down one of the long, narrow rows of vines. The further we went, the quieter it got. The laughter and chatter of the crowd behind us faded, placed by the rustle of dry leaves under our feet and the whisper of the wind through the nearly bare branches of the surrounding woods. It was just us, the rows of pumpkins, and a growing sense of isolation. And that's when I saw it. Standing just behind the last row of pumpkins, nestled against the dark backdrop of the woods, was a figure. It was tall, unnervingly thin, with its arms stretched out wide like a scarecrow. My first thought was, oh, cool decoration. It made sense, right? It's a pumpkin patch. Scarecrows are part of the whole aesthetic, but the longer I stared, the more that initial thought unraveled. There was something wrong with its proportions. The clothes it wore looked like old, tattered farm clothes, but they hung in a way that didn't suggest a frame of wood and straw. The wide-brimmed hat cast a deep shadow over where its face should be, but I could have sworn I saw it shift. Just a tiny, subtle movement, like a person taking a slow breath. "It's probably just a decoration," Kevin said, his voice a little less confident than usual. He was trying to reassure himself as much as me, but that feeling, that deep, instinctual wrongness was screaming at me. Every nerve in my body was telling me to get out of there. I ignored the giant pumpkin Kevin had dared me to get. I grabbed the first decent-sized one I could find, something I could carry without slowing down. "Let's go back," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. As we turned and started walking, I risked a glance over my shoulder. My heart hammered against my ribs. The figure seemed closer. Not by much, maybe just a few feet. But it was definitely not in the exact same spot. It hadn't made a sound. We picked up our pace, our casual walk turning into a brisk hurry. The cheerful sounds of the main patch grew louder, a beacon of safety we were desperate to reach. By the time we were back in the thick of the crowd, surrounded by other people, I looked back again. The figure was gone. The space by the tree line was empty. For a moment, I thought I'd imagined it all. The fading light, the isolation, my mind playing tricks on me. We started heading towards the main stand to pay for our pumpkins, the adrenaline slowly starting to fade. The sun was dipping below the horizon now, casting long, eerie shadows across the field. Then I heard it, a sound that cut through the noise of the crowd. Asterisk, crack asterisk, sharp and clear. The sound of a dry branch snapping under weight. I whipped my head around, my eyes scanning the edge of the field we had just come from, and there it was. The figure. It was standing just inside the last row of pumpkins, only a few steps behind where we had been moments before. Its head was tilted to one side, an unnervingly curious gesture, as if it were studying us. As if it had been following us the whole time, just out of sight. And then it began to move toward us. But it wasn't walking. There was no bobbing motion, no swing of the arms. It was gliding. A smooth, silent, unnatural slide over the uneven ground. It was utterly terrifying. That's when we ran. We didn't say a word. We just bolted. I dropped my pumpkin, hearing it split open on the ground behind me. All I could hear was my own ragged breathing and the frantic sound of crunching leaves behind us. It was a rhythmic, relentless sound, faster than any footstep should be. It was keeping pace with us. We burst out of the rows of pumpkins and into the brightly lit main area by the registers. We didn't stop running until we were in the middle of a group of people, gasping for air, our hearts pounding. I turned back, my eyes wide with terror, expecting to see it emerge from the darkness. But it had stopped. It stood right at the edge of the unlit field, a tall, dark silhouette against the deepening twilight. It was perfectly still again, just watching us. The contrast was chilling, the bright, happy scene in front of us, and that silent, menacing observer in the darkness behind. We scrambled to the car, fumbling with the keys, and peeled out of the parking lot without looking back. Drive home was silent. We were both too shaken to speak. A few days later, I was scrolling through a local community page online when a post caught my eye. Someone was asking if anyone else had seen a strange person in a scarecrow costume at that same pumpkin patch. They said the person was creeping people out, that it didn't move like a normal person. They described how it just glided. My blood ran cold. It wasn't just us. It wasn't our imagination. Yeah. I've never been back to that pumpkin patch. I probably never will. And every single year, when the leaves start to turn and the air gets that familiar autumn chill, I can't help but think of that day. I remember that tall, silent figure standing among the pumpkins, its head tilted, just watching, and I wonder what was it, and what was it waiting for? Thanks so much for listening to my story. If you've ever had a creepy experience like this, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Stay safe out there. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more strange tales. See you next time.